is you went through the experience before. For example, if you go to school and you learn about Christopher Columbus, and then you have a child. Your child knows about Christopher Columbus now because their genetic information has been passed down to them. So when they go to school, it's hard for them to pay attention to that. You know why? Because subconsciously, they're not learning anything fucking new. So you trying to get people to pay attention to shit that technically they just got done paying attention to it 20 years ago before you had them. Lord forbid you have a fucking kid at 16. They just was in this class 16 fucking years ago, even though they only 16 now. So that being said, the black woman's intelligence can be accounted for the fact that she's been 10 toes down on this planet for so long we can't even calculate. And so that being said, the man being a black woman, which is an XY chromosome, which is an XX chromosome, which is a female chromosome minus 2.8% of her genetic self, now has become intellectually misguided and egotistically inflated by a patrilineal society. So let me break this down, right? Women are force, let's say force consumers. Men are force projectors. So in science, negative and positive does not mean bad and good. It means female and masculine. So masculine energy is projective. Protons project energy. The sun projects energy. Men, we project force. We're outgoing. Women are more introverted naturally. They accept force. Okay? They digest force. And so force means what? To exert a frequency. We're the frequency exerters. Women are the frequency digesters. So we're the plug, women are the socket. And so why is this important? Women's energy, right, has been misconstrued and perverted because she's been off her throne. So now let me break this down, right? In ancient times, women ran the world. Period. Even when we go back to ancient Egypt, women were the heads of ancient Egypt. Now I know this is going to hurt a lot of motherfuckers' feelings, but I don't care. So when we go into even the word pharaoh, I call myself pharaoh, right? We got to know the titles that we're using. The word pharaoh does not technically mean king. Now, according to the Ayuwani tribe, who's never been displaced from Egypt, they've been over there for 65,000 years. You know, according to them, women ran Egypt. Now, in an alleged translation of the Egyptian hieroglyphics, they say the word pharaoh came from the word per-ah, which means high house of the woman. Why? Because whether you were a polygamous male or a monogamous male, you couldn't become the ruler unless you were accepted into the high house of the woman. And a pyramid is actually a geometrical structure of a giant vagina. This is why even when you see the goddess Nut on the wall, they drew her womb where the sun enters in a pyramid form. But that's another, science for another time. But with that being said, boom. Matter of fact, let me add on to that before I go. This is why a pyramid also refreshes energy and holds it exactly in its center in a refreshing motion, just like a woman holds a child in her center. So that being said, a pyramid is a geometrical symbol symbolizing the black woman's womb, period. Now jumping back into the science, right? In Egypt, right? When you look at Egypt, when matrilineal rule was ruling, it was flourishing. Now when we look at how Egypt fell, right? Because I always say Egypt fell due to the dissension of consciousness according to the story, right? So when you look at Egypt, what happened? The Caucasians came over there, aka the Hyksos or the Greeks, whatever you want to call them, right? And then they got kicked out. And the black man kicked out he banished all of the Caucasian males to the Caucasus Mountains, but he kept the Caucasian women. And now what happened was, because what y'all don't understand is you get 95% of your genes from your mother. So your genes is located in the mitochondrial tail part of your sperm. So when that little tail falls off your sperm, okay, you can understand that the majority of your DNA is gone. It didn't make it to the egg. So you are not a child of your father. You're a child of your mother. Your bloodline is passed down from your mother. Even my skin. Every male on the planet technically has female skin because you have the skin of your female. So the skin of your mother. So technically everybody is a different variation of a girl. Now why is this important? On maximum, you give about 5,000 mitochondrial DNA sequences to your child as a man. A woman gives anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000. So even if you gave all 5,000 to your child as a man, the mother would still give 199,995 genetic sequences to the child. So that being said, the child is a reproduction of the mother, whether you want to argue that or not. So that being said, our ancestors understood this science. And one more science I got to break down because I have to put this all in place before I go. Another science I want to break down is the way the universe builds. It builds off electrons. So for example, right, the two first elements ever created was hydrogen and helium. Now the way that elements are created is they get struck by a red light, they become unstable, which just means they become involved now, or they become what science calls radioactive, which just means unstable. Now in order for an atom to become unstable, it has to give off an electron. So if hydrogen gives off one electron, and then helium, if helium is unstable and helium gives off one electron and hydrogen picks it up, hydrogen now upgrades to helium because helium has 2 electrons, and helium now downgrades to hydrogen because it has 1 electron. Now think about all the chemical elements that are on the periodic element table chart and understand that these are all the chemical elements that make up the universe, and they were all created and constantly being created through the exchange of electrons, which is female energy. The universe is constantly expanding, which means the universe is one giant, constant expanding womb. It's a giant female. All physical reality is created by female exchanging energy. So interexchanging energies. And so that being said, our ancestors understood this science, which is why, in accordance with nature, they allowed the woman to be the head. So women are supposed to lead the planet because they are the nurturers of force, and men are supposed to protect the planet because they are the projectors of force. This is called a matrilineal system. Now, what the European has done is ripped that away and created a patrilineal system because he don't have no conscious respect for a woman on a divine level, on the level that an African had. This is why his system is patrilineal. This is why our system was matrilineal. So now, here we go. Coming with the science. Back to Egypt. When we fell and went through a patrilineal system, and we turned our back on a black woman, according to the way Egypt fell, the way they tell the story, this is when all of the rejection of black women's divinity began to go. So now let me give you the story. They kicked the Caucasians to the mountains, right? Boom. They keep the Caucasian women. Now, back then, you inherited the throne through your mother. Because remember, in order to become the pharaoh, a.k.a. the Per-Ah, the king of the high house, which is the high house was owned by the woman, you had to be coming through the bloodline of your mother. So when the pharaoh started having babies with the Caucasian women, the mulatto children automatically became the new heirs to the throne. And this is how Europeans or outsiders interwove their way into Egypt and crushed it from the outside. Because what happened was once the mulattoes became into power, they basically told the black pharaohs, fuck y'all, because y'all not letting the white side, because remember, Greeks and Caucasians was not allowed in Egypt. So they basically said, fuck you, I'm letting my mom's side of the family in, and you know Caucasians was on their bullshit, like, nigga, you didn't let us up in here, we about to turn up, and they tore that motherfucker up. So that being said, when the black man turned his back, according to the story, on the black woman, that's when it was a wrap. Basically, when you lost the true order of consciousness, that's when it was a wrap. And so now when we look at society today, right, you see a motherfucking black woman can't even speak her motherfucking point without you bum-ass niggas jumping out your motherfucking tree and you got something to say. And so, we reached a point where no matter what a black woman says, her cries never get answered. And so, this ain't about kissing ass or making a video to kiss black women ass. This is about motherfucking truth. So, we've become so patrilineally, egotistically boosted by this bullshit-ass Western psychology that your woman can constantly come to you with complaints and ask you to do shit, and it could be a valid complaint or a valid request, but we so inflated to the point of just being a man, we feel like we can't even listen because for some reason we feel like we can't submit or listen to no woman. AKA, we've been so programmed to reject divine energy and female energy. And this is why the world is fucked up. Because when you look at everything that's going on in the world, if you ask a nigga right now, right? If you ask a nigga, have you ever seen somebody get killed, or do you have any friends that ended up dead or in jail? And they say yes. And we say, well, who killed them in that drive-by shooting? Wasn't no car full of females. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it's very rare. If you say, motherfucker, ever been in a club and, you know, got shot after a club, you know, over gang, you know, interminglings, who did it? A nigga. So that being said, when we say who started world wars over religion, who the fuck knocked down the towers and fucking, you know, tricked us to go over there and fight with the Middle East? Niggas. And by niggas, I don't mean black people. I just mean men in general. I'm just using the term niggas. But with that being said, men. So, this shows you that men are not supposed to be leading the planet in such a way. Women are supposed to be the emotional, see, when we talk about leadership, everything has a lane. So just because you're a leader, it means a leader of what? If you play Call of Duty, you might be the leading you might have the lead scorer, you might be leading the goddamn scoreboard for kills in Call of Duty. But if you come try that shit on 2K, it's a dub for you. So anybody can lead in their own lane. Men are meant to be leading and projective in ways that cause us to project our force. So we're supposed to be leading in the ways that protect, or ways where we can be useful in an exertive way. Women are supposed to be leading in ways where they can accept, or where they can be leading in a nurturing way. So when it comes to the total collective of consciousness, women should be leading in that emotional, mental, and spiritual role. And this is why before religion came, all spiritual deities were women because they were nurturers. Just like when you're a baby, you go to your mother to get nurtured. You don't go to your father. When you go to, if you a fucking 8-year-old and you cut your elbow, you go to dad. Dad be like, man, take your ass out there and fucking play. But we think that that's raising a boy. But mommy says, let me see it, baby. And she takes the time to actually give a fuck about your complaint. So now as we grow up, we get this psychology and we get this understanding that the person who actually took the time to care about your complaint as a child, fuck her because bitches ain't shit. And the nigga who showed you he never gave a fuck about you, this the nigga you ride or die for. This the nigga you elect president and you wonder why the world fucked up. And you wonder why don't nobody cares homeless people on the street. And you wonder why don't nobody care that motherfucker starving to death. And you wonder why don't nobody care that the earth is getting polluted. Because the nigga who don't give a fuck because his natural way is to exert. Nigga, that's what he doing. He's exerting. And the person who digests love and nurture is not being allowed to play her role. And so, as much as y'all bitch asshole ass niggas don't want to hear this, bitch, sit the fuck down. You're not supposed to be on the throne that you're on. Your throne is over here. Who the fuck put you on the throne over there, my nigga? That's just the way it is. And so we living in a time where niggas will read a motherfucking self-help book. Wasn't even written by no motherfucking black woman at all. And a black woman can't even come to you and state her motherfucking point. So a nigga will read a self-help book, or you niggas read whatever the fuck y'all reading. You're reading 48 Laws of Power, aka 48 Laws of How to Become a Goddamn Coward. You're reading all of this misguided bullshit. But a black woman can't even come to you and say, I'm a god. Hold her head high. Walk with some motherfucking authority. Can't even some of you niggas can't even stop inappropriately touching them. Some of you niggas don't know what no mean. So you won't accept her divinity, but you so quick to accept another motherfucker's information. So you motherfuckers believe Jesus is real because the white man told you. You believe Allah is real because a fucking Arab and a Caucasian told you. A Semitic entity told you. You motherfuckers believe in goddamn, you niggas is everything. Hebrews, Jews, Christians, Muslims. Now you on your weirdo Scientology shit, evolution. You niggas believe and hold every deity to motherfucking truth. Some of you niggas is flat out atheists. But the black woman is not allowed to be introduced into your psyche as a divine deity. Why? You accepted a white Jesus or a white fucking portrait of Caesar Borgia, whatever the fuck his goddamn name is, and you accepted him as your Lord and Savior. You accepted Allah. Allah want 12 underage virgins for your mother. He offering niggas underage women, and you accept him. You accept all of you motherfuckers accept Santa Claus. You accept Cupid on Valentine's Day, which is nothing more than a pedophilic symbol for eroticism from the goddamn Greek erotic god Eros, which was a fucking baby, because a baby in Greek was a symbol of becoming aroused. You niggas accept all of these weird ass holidays, but as soon as the black woman say, I'm God, nigga, this is what it is, this is what I require from you, now you gonna bump your motherfucking chest out, and now you got a motherfucking problem with that. What's wrong with you? You have an ancient sickness that started in Egypt and now you carrying it over here. And that ancient sickness was given to you by an entity outside of you then and is being given back to you now. And that sickness is not respecting the role that female energy was meant to play. Motherfucker, you wouldn't even be in this fucking body if female energy, aka electrons, were not exchanging and interacting with each other in order to create different elements to comprise this bitch.